concern about the inside, but just as a repeat of the kind of philosophy that these guys have established with the mural, we're doing a large mural that spans the entire length of the restaurant space. And
I will just mention, because it's probably not going to be a secret for too long, we are going with the Anna U. Davis, a local Washington, D.C. based artist. She's famous for her feminist and African-American statements, and she's been displayed at Longview Gallery several times. DC Commission for Arts has 4 of her pieces, and the art piece, you'd be able to see it from the other side of the Q Street, and obviously people who live in the apartment buildings, in the apartment building across the street will also see it through the window.
and then I guess if you could go to then we just have some diagrams that I think touch on things that I've already mentioned. We've got the storefront bay, we've got the reference to Q Street, the clear division between the old and new, and then the restoration and improvements to the 7th Street facade. It all goes, I assume this goes without mentioning, but I guess it's worth mentioning that the real beauty of this project is also that it gets rid of all of the temporary facilities. It really makes the garden area something that's truly beautiful, and I think will contribute positively to that corner.
We will pay even more attention to plantings. We now learned a lot more. We have currently 23 species of plants in the hedge, and the hedge of the terrace that covers the bar will be fully irrigated, serious space for hanging plants and flowering plants.
All right, so again, as with the previous case, what we are charged with reviewing is the appropriateness of design for the historic district in which the structure is located. So this is in my single member district. So we did have a presentation yesterday at the Zoning and Planning Committee meeting, and Marge, did you want to report on that?
We actually did not take a vote on, did we?
Yes, we did. It was 2-1.
No, we did.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you had departed the meeting before we
I-
But I thought you
completed
didn't.
our
I thought you
meeting.
didn't take. Yeah.
I thought we didn't either,
Yeah.
and I'm corrected. I was 2-1. Against. I was for it.
So some of the reasons that we had concerns about this, and I'll ask for comments from any residents that may be present after I make these observations, is that unlike the Bridge Street project, which is new construction, complete new construction, this is an addition to a historic building which is being restored, and the level of modernity associated with this addition is inappropriate for an addition to a historic building. We have wonderful examples of new construction in our historic district that have won mayor's awards for historic preservation because they've been very sensitively designed as entire units. But this is a pastiche. It's a mismatch of modern or Bauhaus design with a historic building. Some of the other concerns are that the original concept that was approved by HPRB on the empty lot, there were a number of elements that were incorporated in the process of going back and forth between the community and HPRB, and the HPRB received the project received the community's unanimous support because of the fact that they had made great lengths to make sure that this was a building that was set back substantially so that it could help to reduce noise transmission, which is not an issue in terms of historic preservation review, but also that there was a roof associated with the building that was supposed to be built on the 1600 lot, which also accomplished a number of different benefits to the immediate neighbors. So I know that there has been a vigorous dialogue between the applicants, which I appreciate their active participation with the immediately affected neighbors. There is a neighborhood association called the Central Shaw Neighborhood Association that at this point, because the discussions have been terminated by the applicant, so there hasn't been another opportunity to go back and forth, they have decided that they are going to be in opposition to this. I did speak with Steve Colcott, the Deputy State Historic Preservation Director today, and some of the issues that I raised to him were not aware, he was not aware of. The fact that this building is actually on a long-term lease instead of owned by the applicants is a concern, because the windows that are being proposed to go on this facade are what is referred to as at risk. I'm sure that folks have seen examples where buildings have been built with windows next to an empty lot, and a new building is put up next to it, and all of a sudden those windows have to disappear because there's going to be a solid wall up against the party wall. So Mr. Colcott did confirm that that is an issue that would have to be addressed here. But more importantly, in terms of the design, the goal should be to have a building that is attached to a historic building have some level of character definition that relates to the historic building. And this is not it. We're not there on this. So those are my immediate observations. And is there anyone here from the association that would like to speak? Yes.
Can we answer your remarks and then go to the...
Certainly.
Or,
I mean, I guess I would
That's fine.
say,
you said you mentioned
Please.
Other commissioners?
Please, go ahead.
Can we have
Are there other commissioners that want to speak first?
can I also mention that we've had 3 conversations with Steve Pelcott, and he does not agree with you on
Well,
your
this is as of 5 o'clock today.
this, but can we have the microphone?
But I'm saying that he doesn't necessarily agree with your characterization that this is not compatible, because HPRB often takes the stance, it's not uncommon for them to take the stance that they like a very clear designation between what is old and new. And that was the approach that we took, and that is the approach that Steve has been evaluating this on and actually is amenable to. So,
I just wanted to mention the window question, since you're bringing it up again, even though this is not in the purview of this specific question. It's a zoning issue, and so it has nothing to do with HPRB. They are not concerned with the windows facing. We're addressing this with zoning, and we will go through zoning for that issue particularly, and you have an opportunity to address it there. So, as far as the dialogue with neighbors, we did not terminate it at all. We've had 5 or 6 discussions. A couple of discussions were at our private residences. We invited people, some guys who are not here today, who are concerned. We're in my house, sitting around, and we were talking and showing and walking through every aspect of this design. And actually, none of the neighbors the concerned neighbors who voiced any opposition to the way the building, the design look. And actually the person who leads the whole opposition, Brian Peters, great respect, said he loves the design. So it's kind of new. What you brought up yesterday was at the 11th hour, and it just kind of, came out as a snowball out of nowhere.
So let me ask you a question. So you did your due diligence
Absolutely.
and got feedback from the constituents, like I was trying to emphasize in the last case, so you did that.
We hired a historian. We approached this very carefully because last year we had an issue with the 1602 building, which actually historic really did not like. They did not want to have a small building in the back of the lot. And, this building was approved, but it's not the project that is in front of them. They will not, look at it. If there was an L-shaped building in front of them, then they would look at it. But that's not what we're talking about. So yeah, we have diligently addressed this. We have been in discussions with so many people. As far as the modernity, Bauhaus is a German style from 1930s, from the last century. we are bringing in.
I don't think we need to get into
Right,
stuff.
yeah, but you know, it's kind of a moot point, you know, we have a precedent of creating something beautiful
It's
already.
about scale and the
That's
rest
right.
of it.
So I have a question, so what were the purpose of all these emails we got tonight then? Are you aware that we received some emails from constituents?
No,
It seemed to be a lot about the deck, which I didn't quite understand. So, because I mean, I didn't quite get what the deck was all about in terms of, you already have the garden already. I didn't quite understand the complaints about the deck because they already have the
Can you
garden
explain
action
that?
already.
can you explain?
So what was the concern about this whole deck business?
And each of those emails, by the way, looked to me like somebody told them exactly what to write, because they all use the same words.
Of course.
So,
Same as the Ridge Street emails, so there's no difference there.
But I mean.
So-
this
so
is-
to-
this is-
to
this is-
correct-
This is so not appropriate, you
So
know?
this is
Alex.
completely appropriate.
No.
So, to clarify, 2 weeks ago, the association corresponded with the applicants, and there has been no communication back for the past 2 weeks.
That's not-
Can I say something?
That's not yet, but we will get to you.
Yeah, I want to say something.
So,
I'm hearing it historically, but
so
I'm not
just
seeing
to
too
clarify
much
and
historical.
to make sure that that is in the record. So, yes, please.
well, can we, I mean, can the commission speak?
Did you want to speak?
Yes.
Please.
In this city.
First question, you've met with Historic and you've met with Steve and you've gone over all of these plans
3 times.
a number of times and he is in agreement with the possibility of your plan.
Yes, in fact, the first time we presented, he did not like the concept, and we revised it and got to this point with him.
So that you now are meeting the standard he would like to see.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Very
And-
much so.
And the second thing is, Elizabeth is very lonely there. And I think my head should be right next to Elizabeth, so she has someone to talk to. We gotta lighten this up, it's getting very heavy in here. Okay, I'm only kidding, but, yeah, okay, so you've met with Historic here.
We'll incorporate you into the mural.
And he's talked, apparently have talked to the constituents, and Mike, okay.
So, please.
Hi Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Katie Peters, my husband's Brian Peters, who's the president of the Central Shaw Neighborhood Association that Alex mentioned. He, fortunately, he's fine, but he was admitted to GW Hospital today, so I'm here as his proxy, and if that's okay. I'm here to state our family's opposition to ANC supporting the application for let me get the wording right, the historic preservation. We believe the design is inconsistent with the character of our neighborhood, specifically the empty lot for drinking with the roof deck, we believe is not historically accurate and has never existed in this form before, especially the second floor that would have people on top of it. In addition, the windows on the side, as Alex mentioned, if someone is at some point to develop the lot next to Elizabeth and the proposed adjacent building, that would be challenging, and I think we would all hope for a permanent structure that enhances the neighborhood going in there at some point. This also does not satisfy the neighborhood association agreement that we have with the folks at Dacha. There was a commitment made that a structure would be put on the back of the lot that is currently the garden and would remain the garden in this design. And under these plans, that commitment would not be fulfilled. As Alex mentioned, my husband attempted to come to an agreement with the folks at Dacha. We sent an email 2 weeks ago outlining the neighborhood association's next kind of asks in the negotiation, and there was never a communication back. So in the attempt to reach agreement where we could be supportive, we don't feel we were given that opportunity. So for those reasons, we are left with no position but to oppose the application. Thank you.
And
So
to
really
clarify,
briefly,
I will call upon you
the
to clarify, this case was actually also originally going to be coming to the commission in October, and then we asked to take a month to try to find the meeting of the minds, because I always prefer to get people to, to get to consensus rather than to have a
Correct,
contested case.
correct. We always wanted to have a consensus. The thing is, with two things, as far as the neighborhood agreement, it's outside of the scope of this discussion. It is an ABRA issue. We will address it separately, but I will satisfy for the clarity and for the truth. We actually do not state in the agreement that the building, the permanent building, must be in the back of the lot. There's no such language in that agreement. That's number one. Number two, as far as Brian goes and the communication between us, had nothing to do with the design. All we talked about was the issues that will be addressed at the ABC and ABRA. That's it. There was never, ever any questions related to the design of the building, or the design, the look of the windows, the decks, the plants, Bauhaus, etc., etc. So that's
And they
the
had
real
seen it.
truth. They have seen it all live, on the computers, on papers, in person.
So you've seen these, right? You've seen these plans?
Yes,
Okay.
I would say that we're unable.
My people didn't see the plans, so that's,
No, we've seen the plans. However, given the fact that the negotiations were cut off, it remains an open question as to whether or not this will come up in the context of them, so I don't think that's.
Speak up.
Oh, I apologize. I said in the context of our negotiations, because a conclusion was never reached, I don't think we can say that questions about design were never an issue.
Mary?
Yes, I'm Mary Sutherland, and I live in the 1500 block of 8th, and I pass by your establishment every day, all day long. I was never informed of any type of meeting, not even with the association. So I had no knowledge whatsoever of what was going on there. And I'm very close.
Right.
I'm
That's
basically
bad.
next door, but I am
Yeah.
excluded because of individual being selected who they come to. It should not matter how you feel about a person if it's going to affect you. And I'm a stakeholder, been there for many, 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 many years. I should have had some knowledge.
Right.
But that's nor here nor there because it looked like they have it under control in that area. But I do have a question. On the property, when you're serving, when you're open for business, how many people, what is the capacity for the people?
The current, so as far, I'll answer you first. I completely agree. They should have informed you. Alex was well aware of the designs, and so was the neighborhood commission, so I don't know how they missed you. They have an active board, discussion board, so. Number two, as far as the capacity, the certificate of occupancy that we just extended to the next year, which is still temporary certificate of occupancy, states the total capacity for the beer garden at 219, plus the public space at 40 people. So total capacity at this time is 259, as of 3 days ago.
259.
Also not an HPRB issue. I might
Also
add.
not an HPRB issue.
So
Thank
let's
you
not
for
waste our
answering the
time on that.
constituent's question.
Right.
Wait a minute, Mr. Padre, please do not be rude. I just want to ask to clarify, because you have a very bad
Go ahead,
habit.
finish
And
asking
you
your
have
question.
an issue with me, but that's on you. But
Finish asking
still,
your
you are
question.
selected, and I am a
If you don't want to
resident.
finish asking
And
your
you
question, then
should
we'll
come
move
and let
on.
me know certain things, but you
Sorry.
don't. But, does that include the sidewalk? It's inside only, is that correct?
It's inside only, yeah. And we take great measures to not let people linger on the sidewalks at all. In fact, we rarely open the Q Street side entrance.
Thank you for answering that question.
Mr. Molesky.
Yeah, frankly, I do understand the issue about, from an architectural standpoint, putting the new and the old and that sort of thing together. And I think it's a relatively good design, and that was what we, at least the one neighborhood meeting I was in, but the big exception was that deck. because that deck will add a whole lot more people talking and shouting and talking loudly. Put one beer in a Jessica and a Jason, and they're screaming and yelling. I live just a block away, and I can hear it, even without my hearing aids. So, and that's a concern that we have, particularly on, putting a deck on the roof is not historic. People didn't go on their roofs, except maybe to watch balloons.
Let's be very truthful about it. You will have amazing opportunity to address
Mr. Chacalman,
noises.
But you have-
we didn't
IPVC,
interrupt
correct,
you
but-
when you were speaking.
Okay, so we're,
No,
and there's a lot of fuss about the silly little cast iron thing that was torn down in the Chinese restaurant. I remember the imbroglio that went, oh my God, they tore that down, it's historic. But here you have, you're worrying about a moat in the front, when you have this huge beam in the back that stands out, and it's imposing.
Right now, we have a big canopy that is just as big as this deck, and it is just, it's actually quite pleasant to look at. Number two, once again, you will have amazing opportunity to address very precise noise issues with or without engineers. And, we are completely aware of this. My God, I'm so worried about this too, and I will address it with all the money I have to mitigate every single issue that you have as my neighbor, because I care about you. But this is not the discussion here now.
I'm
That's
enormously,
correct.
and let me just close by saying I'm enormously grateful that you built your business here. I mean, I've been in, I can play the old lady in the neighborhood, but when we was coming up, there'd be a few old men with drinking beer out of a sack on milk crates, and that was about the only life you had on that corner. And now you've brought this corner to life, and we're very grateful for it. But
I
know,
want to
it
clarify
can
one
get out
thing
of
to you
hand.
about when you say the word roof, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we don't have a roof deck anymore. When you say roof, you mean this thing? Okay,
Yeah, the last
but
meeting
up
I
here,
went to, the last
No,
meeting.
there's no roof
I got rid of
deck.
it.
This
It's
was our
gone.
compromise with, actually,
Okay.
with Brian. The first thing we said, no roof deck.
Yeah, nobody let me know that, so.
roof deck is gone.
Thank you.
Yeah, roof deck is no longer, no, I thought you were talking about the deck.
Okay, I'm gonna take one
No,
Take
like here.
one more comment,
Here, we're not doing anything.
and then we need to move on.
Sure. I'm Dave McNitt. I live at 1601 8th Street. It's
Let's
typical-
respect our colleagues and our neighbors.
I live at 1601 8th Street. It's, if you've ever been to Dacha, I'm the bright green house that looks like it's abandoned about one door down. But I do live there. And I've been there for about 5 years, so I was there when we first went through this process with Dacha when they were coming in and they were taking over an empty lot and turning it into the great business that we have today. And I will credit, particularly given what I saw in the previous presenters, that Dimitri and Ilya have been very, very good back then approaching us and talking to us and working through our design issues with the beer garden. And they worked with a number of other issues that sort of aren't in the scope of HPRB, but if you recall back then, the neighborhood did have unanimous support for this business coming in. It wasn't, really wasn't an ounce of NIMBYism. We were all pretty excited about it. And I think a big part of that excitement was underpinned by the concept, both architecturally and from a business standpoint, that there was going to be a Dacha concept and that the Dacha building was going to be sort of right back there in the rear part of the lot. I would say that when we heard as a neighborhood almost unanimously, when we heard that they were going to be taking over the next building, I think there was unanimous excitement among the community. But I will say that when we saw the designs, and it's changed a little bit in our discussions, it was surprising. It was a significant departure from sort of the architectural agreement that we had crafted that underpinned our support for the project. We have had some positive discussions to try to figure out a way that we can both, for HPRB, sort of architecturally work out something that's cognizant of the neighborhood, and then also for other things cognizant of the neighbors. But I think it looks like a really, really cool beer garden. But if I were to be walking in, say downtown Miami or something like that, and I would see, wow, that's a really, really cool beer garden. I'm not sure if it's quite there for the neighborhood. When I see like the big windows there and the second floor balcony, I just don't know if there's sort of from HPRB standpoint, what's the precedent for that? You know, you know, do we put beer gardens on beer gardens in historic districts? I don't know. I leave that to the wiser minds of HPRB, but certainly it raises some concerns for our neighbors. And I think to the Commissioner Maceda, is that I think to your point that you saw some emails that looked like they were very similar today. I didn't send one of them because I wanted to be here, but I think they were similar because we've had a lot of discussions with Dimitri and Ilya, and we're sort of really are sort of on the same page of our concerns as neighbors. So I think that's really the reason why you're seeing similar concerns here. But I think that there is an exciting opportunity here. There's an opportunity to expand a business, and I think there's a way that we can do it that satisfies both the historic considerations of the neighborhood and also that will get the support of the neighbors wholeheartedly. I just don't know if we're there yet, and I would certainly appreciate it if Dimitri and Ilya would continue to work with us on the design, and that some of the issues I'm seeing here with it being sort of a very modern, almost Miami-ish type of design, that we might be able to address those with the HPRB. But anyway, love the business. This shirt fit me before Dacha opened, so I've drank my fair share of beers there. I look forward to doing it in the future, and I hope that we can all be where we were a couple years ago.
That was actually a relevant point.
Do you want to respond? Can I
If you
respond?
like.
Yeah.
First of all, on the white, agreed. Steve, that was what I mentioned earlier, that Steve and I have talked about how, especially in these renderings, the white is a very kind of contrast to the neighborhood. So we're talking about bringing in a brick material that has a little bit more texture and something more in the earth tone range, which I think will make a big difference. In regards to the window, I think what might help is for us to, we didn't do ourselves any favors by not showing the neighbors. Because those windows, while they are large, they look, I think it's a little bit misleading. I think they look bigger than they actually are. They're 10 feet wide by 15 feet tall, which is a big window, but it's not out of keeping from the condo building that just got built across the street. I mean, in fact, it's much more residential. It's much more within the scale of Q Street. And it's definitely not, I feel like it's not competing with the existing building. In fact, I feel like it's just kind of like, okay, it's very clear that this is new and this is old.
And as far as the beer garden, the second floor, the deck and the restaurant, it's seating only, weighted seating space. It's going to be much more refined in the sense that we will create different programming there, and that's why I mentioned the art, the finishes inside. It's going to be a very different atmosphere on that deck, and we are happy to comply with the limitation of seats there. I think we kind of agreed on that.
I just want to point out one more thing too. You can see the kind of scale of a person here. The rear portion of the deck is taller than a person, and that was partially an attempt for kind of creating that sense of privacy back there that we know that everybody is right about. Yeah.
And never mind. I don't want to take more time.
Quick question. Are the windows fixed or do they open?
Fixed. The two small doors on the sides. The idea is to keep that space very separate. It's not supposed to be one.
So people would come out onto that deck from one of those doors?
That's right. Yeah.
All right, so the last response I had to one of the points that you made related to that canopy that's currently there, that's a temporary structure. We're not talking about a temporary structure, we're talking about permanent structures. And that's what the Historic Preservation Review Board will be doing. So all that having been said, I will make a motion that Advisory Neighborhood Commission 6E not support the concept design for the addition to 1602 7th Street Northwest with the following considerations. The first, we have no objection to the preservation plan for the existing building, existing historic structure that is on 1602, 7th Street Northwest. And number two, that the objective here should be to have an addition that is in closer and better keeping with the character of buildings in the historic district, including the fenestration of the addition. Number three, that any structure on the lot at 1600 7th Street Northwest have as many of the characteristics that were previously approved by the Historic Preservation Review Board for the standalone building on that site be incorporated into what portion of the addition is on that site. And number four, that we have concerns about at-risk windows on that southern facade. And I would ask for a second.
I'll second.
It's been probably moved and seconded, discussion on the part of the commission. Hearing none.
Well, I'd say them.
Go ahead.
And I think it's, if the commissioners that vote to not support this, is that your motion?
Yes.
You know, and then chose not to support mine, these gentlemen clearly have done their due diligence and have outreach and will still do their due diligence. And for you guys not to support my motion is frankly shameful, because that other developer did not do her due diligence, nor will she. And that is shameful, shameful, shameful on the commissioners who voted the other way for the other project, because they clearly are trying their best. The other developer did nothing.
Again, we don't have a standard
I'm
for
just
committee
putting it out
outreach.
there, right?
So our responsibility is to review the design that is before us. So further discussion on the part of the commission. Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Nay.
Yeah.
Nay.
Show of hands, please.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The ayes, show of hands.
No, we have to finish voting. So we've got
Nay.
two ayes, nays,
Nay.
Nay. Nay.
1, 2, abstain. Any
Frank,
abstentions?
Nay.
That's 3 nays, any
I'm for.
abstentions?
4 nays.
So that's 4 nays.
Thank you, Alex.
Okay, so the motion fails.
Guys, we will address every single noise concern with you. I promise you that in front of these good people.
Right?
Every single one of them. We will spend money